We've had a lot of elders in my family contributing to nation building. Everybody is doing something to build the country. You know, what can you do? And at that time, I remember thinking, what if I create jobs? I've heard when I was growing up that Mahatma Gandhi used to come and stay with us. Organization is a great place to work. It's a US-based organization. I was onboarded as a co-owner and as a CEO.
You were one of the youngest HR heads in India.
One of my first cases of POSH was actually of a male employee complaining. And this was in 2002, 2003. For you to be an Indian, you have to leave the country. 7 decades and more of us winning our own freedom. I don't think we've come together to define India as a collective identity. We have in the last decade created a market for goods and products that are not Indian but Western, but the largest market being India. And it's not because rosemary doesn't work, it's because we don't know much about castor oil. We're now a technology first generation. If I want to clarify something, I don't talk to you. I go to my phone and search for it. I don't think the Indian society today, there is still a maturity to accept failure as just another step in the journey. You know, there's a lot of, oh my God, you failed. I have learned that you can't get a good deal with a bad person. The kind of information access that a Gen Z has today is no generations before them that have had this kind of access to information. We are a country where resources are scarce, and yet we're able to build infrastructure and companies that compete globally. If you look at my journey, I've had to encounter 3 biases: age, gender, and country. At the end of the day, success is nothing but the ability for you to exercise choice.
Yeshasvini Ramaswamy is a cultural transformation and analytics leader, multi-venture founder, and a global advocate for purposeful leadership. She is the founder and CEO of Culturelytics, the world's first AI-driven platform that measures human behavior at work and predicts its dollar impact.
As the former CEO and co-owner of Great Place to Work India, she partnered with more than 2,000 organizations and amplified over 5 million employee voices, helping shape national and global conversations on workplace dignity, leadership responsibility, and the future of human-centered institutions.
Her journey has been shaped by simple beginnings, personal struggle, and deep resilience. An inheritance not of privilege but of public service, integrity, and responsibility. She holds entrepreneurship especially close to her heart as a force that creates livelihoods and expands possibilities for millions of fellow Indians.
Today, as the host of Culture Calls, she opens a space for conversations shaped by courage, culture, and compassion. When stories are heard with honesty and respect, they carry the power to connect hearts, shape futures, and remind us why voices truly matter.
This is Dr. Maithili
and Niharika hosting this interview.
You are a person who is crunching numbers. Where does history figure in all these things?
I think I was surrounded by history. So if you look at my, again, the kind of upbringing that I've had, we've had a lot of elders in my family contributing to nation building. So whether it was my father's father, Dr. Sitaramaya. So way back in 1945, he had gone to Leeds and he was a gold medalist there. Came back to work with the Nehru government when we won independence. Worked very closely with Lal Bahadur Shastri, our Prime Minister.
Wonderful.
So, and then my father joined the IAS, Karnataka cadre. So he was surrounded by a lot of policy making and leaders.
Absolutely.
And then from my mother's side, they're actually from Mysore, but they migrated to Coimbatore during Tipu's time. So our upbringing was a lot of history of the Mysore kingdom, the migrations during Tipu's time, the wars, settling down in a new village, and the hope and excitement of a new India. I've heard when I was growing up that Mahatma Gandhi used to come and stay with us during the freedom struggle. So this is a place called Hassan district in Karnataka. So I think it's the stories that you grow up with, and they kind of influence you. And I've been fascinated about history because unlike in America or something, which is a very cut 200 years kind of a history, ours is probably a civilization that always breathes and lives. We grow up with Ramayana, Mahabharata. So so I think you're making me reflect quite a bit of my own
It's very
life.
interesting, and it's very hard if you're being you're surrounded by such tropes and such stories.
Yes.
It's very difficult not to be influenced by them, not be impacted by them.
Yes.
And I think that's where this entire idea of culture also comes in, which keeps popping up in all your ventures. But we'll come to that a little later.
Okay.
And we'll fast forward a bit now, and we will try to look at after your education, because I think college, and you studied Bachelor's of Business Management, went to IIM, and then the tough world hit you, right?
Yeah.
And I think when I
think the world was always tough. My childhood had its own. It was a mixed bag. So I don't think I went from the world was not new when I finished education. Let me put it that way, because I think both my parents were very encouraging of us to be curious about the world. And when my father used to travel at that time, aeroplanes, the flights were not like today. So a lot of travel was road travel. So, you pick up food, you pick up languages, and we got a lot of exposure to but yes, the big bad world, as they call it, I think in my life has come in phases. Yeah.
And I think, that was the time, around that time, Manmohan Singh ji's liberalization and globalization, everything was bringing that kind of a change in the country also.
Yes.
So you all were at the cusp of things which was happening at that time, the big economic change that India was looking up to.
And we were right in New Delhi at that time. So, so the conversations.
So you were right in the middle of
that we surrounded
things.
with, yes.
So was that what took you to choose HR, the human resources, as your main frame for everything that you do?
No, not really.
So how did HR come about?
HR came because the college that I studied in and that you taught it did not offer psychology.
Okay.
So I think it was a process of elimination. I've always been fascinated about human behavior and psychology, and I think human resources kind of came the closest to it. And I realized very early on that I enjoyed talking to people, because every conversation you end up learning something new. And I enjoyed understanding human behavior, what motivates people, how do they take decisions, how are values tested. A lot of us say you have to live a value-driven life, but when you're in dilemma is when your values are really tested, right? So it's very fascinating for me to observe a human mind.
And very early on, you started heading.
Yes.
You were a CHO, and you know what? When you become a part of huge organizations as a youngster, and you enter and you become a chief, so you have some people who are older than you reporting to you, and then there would have been some youngsters who were there before you, but you have superseded them. So you became a kind of a youngest HR. If I remember going through your profile, you were the youngest, one of the youngest HR heads in India.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So how did that come, and how did you navigate through all these challenges then?
Yeah, I think I've not looked at it that way, to be very honest, because I think transitions have happened normally. I think the credit should go to Kiran, Mr. Kiran Shah. He was one of the promoters of the Vilankani group. And I had actually joined them to look after their training and skill development for employees. And then because we were a startup and we were growing very, very rapidly, I didn't hesitate to take on new responsibilities. If I look back, I think what helped me is that I very quickly ended up managing a P&L as well. So I think I did not restrict myself to say, because I started in HR and training, I'm going to be there. And because it's a startup, it threw up a lot of new roles and responsibilities. And I've always enjoyed exploring myself with new roles. And I think the kind of breadth of exposure that I got helped me lead teams. In fact, one of my first team members, she was 45 years in age, and I was in my mid-20s. And I still remember the performance appraisal conversation I had with her.
That was a time when I think corporate world was just opening up to women.
Yes.
So I'll bring in that gender,
Okay.
in my question here and make you a little uncomfortable.
Okay.
Did you face any situation, which kind of age is one thing, but gender is something totally different. And I'm sure there must have been some uncomfortable situations which came up because you were a woman. Would I be right in,
Oh,
getting
yes.
that perspective?
Yes. Look, from a gender lens, from an upbringing perspective, I don't think we were ever differentiated. It's not like I was told to play with dolls and my brother was told to play with toys of trucks and everything. So I think our upbringing was non-genderish, if you will. So I think as an outlook, I don't view life from a gender lens. Of course, as you age a little bit, get more experience, interact with the society a little bit, you start understanding the nuances. But I think I was pretty oblivious to the fact that gender is there. And yes, I've had very interesting conversations where I've been proposed marriages at work. I've been proposed, even veiled threats to say that, if you,
Yes.
I think we should love each other and get married, and if not, I'm going to make your life a little tougher in the company. And looking back, of course, you laugh at it, but during those times, right, when you're young, you're vulnerable, and you get these kind of uncomfortable conversations, it does make you think about how to navigate them. And for me, I had to be true to myself. That was my North Star. So irrespective of the conversations, I was very clear about, what is it that is a non-negotiable for me. And I was clear on that. In fact, as an HR person, one of my first cases of POSH, which is the prevention of sexual harassment at the workplace, my first case was actually of a male employee complaining.
Okay.
So that itself, and this was, in 2002, 2003, like you rightly said, when Bangalore was, opening up itself to talent from across the country. It was very unusual for me to deal with a male colleague of mine who had come in with a complaint of being harassed by a female boss.
Okay.
Because traditionally, you normally see it the other way around. So that also taught me quite a bit. So I don't know, maybe I'm God's favorite child, always pushing me to situations that I had
Very
to pay
interesting,
probably.
yes.
Yeah,
That was important for me to understand because I have a young woman here and I'm sure, I don't know how much things have changed, but Niharika, would you like to ask anything?
I would like to ask if you have to describe this time period or this phase in one word, what would it be?
Adventure.
Adventure, okay. So when you say adventure, it takes me to your the trajectory of your journey across various, not just countries, continents, right? You seem to have traveled quite a bit. You said that you were traveling on by road with your father, not just flying all the time and getting muddy and dusty. Um so that was within India, and I'm sure you have a different way of having looked at things within India. But tell me, when you traveled abroad, um, what did you see people or hear people talking about India? And what was that lens with which people were talking about India about, whether it was UK or US or Australia? I think China also you traveled.
Yeah, I've been
Yeah.
to China as well. So my first international travel was, I think, when I was in my sixth standard.
Okay.
A quintessential South Indian Brahmin family where you have a lot of brain drain, right? So I'm sure in all of our houses we would have a cousin or a brother or something who has won an admission in a prestigious college on merit. With the hope and promise that they're going to come back to India, but they never did. I think, so for me, it was the same, traveling to US, and this was in a state called Maryland, very close to Washington, D.C. And my aunt, my father's younger sister, and my uncle, both of them are world-renowned virologists, top of the world in terms of science and technology. So my first exposure about being an Indian outside India was during that time, mid 90s. And what do I remember? I remember meeting Amitabh Bachchan in the Frankfurt layover.
Okay.
That was a time where we did not have cell phones or anything.
Yeah.
So, and the airports were not as crowded. So I remember walking up, and he was very surprised seeing somebody in a sari, because I was traveling with my mother.
Okay.
So Amma was in a sari, and we're not too much into movies. So I don't think we were staring at him or being so excited about the fact. So I remember him walking up to us and talking, and something I think I read at that time saying that for you to be an Indian, you have to leave the country. Otherwise you're from a village, you're from a location or a locality, and for you to truly experience who you are as an Indian, you have to travel abroad. There were quintessential stereotypes about our dresses. Mind you, this is mid 90s, so the vegan and the vegetarianism and was not as prevalent.
Yeah, I know we would have been looked like as if we are some animals from the zoo. Very. If you say you're a vegetarian, they would make a big hoo-ha about arranging the food for you.
Yeah, I don't think we were like animals in a zoo. No, I think we did get treated with a lot of respect.
Okay.
But there was a lot of curiosity
yeah.
about
Right,
how
right.
can you live your life without eating meat. So it was a new concept for them. Our rituals, our prayers, our food. So culture became a conversational point with them at that point.
And if you reflect at that period, not today, of course, do you remember anything where you felt, this is also wrong, they are not getting India right?
No, I don't think. I think what happened to me was quite the opposite.
Okay.
Because my aunt, Indians are Indians. We love community wherever we are. And my aunt was and is a member of Chinmaya Mission.
Okay.
So we went all the way to Washington, D.C. and
DC.
Maryland. And we went to Chinmaya
Chinmaya
Mission.
Mission.
So it was like home for us. So I encountered what you're saying later down,
Okay.
especially when I went to China, some of the other countries that I traveled.
You've gone to Dubai also.
Dubai, I've been to about 20 countries on work.
Oh, some are missing in my list. Okay.
But China was interesting because, there again, the concept of vegetarian food this is not now, this is again in the
Correct.
early 2000s. Egypt was fascinating because they love Amitabh Bachchan and Shah Rukh Khan, and wherever we went, they would like, have you met Amitabh Bachchan? Have you met Shah Rukh Khan? And we had to tell them, no, we're a very large country. We're in the south, they're there. So I think that was, wherever I've gone, somehow I've experienced the love for India and the love for our culture, and a lot of the global citizens being very curious about what is this country of India, and that for me was very heartwarming.
So I think you are observing and absorbing, as you said, that's how your childhood began,
Yes.
by observations.
Yes.
So you are responding
I'm
and continuously to the environment around you. And you just now, a minute ago, you said about adventure.
Yeah.
Everything has been an adventure. So tell us, how did entrepreneurship come about then? Was that an adventure? And it's not just one domain, right? Mind you, you were in healthcare, you're in education, and now you're in culture, and you are combining culture with organization. And I mean, how analytics, AI platforms. I mean, how do you even transition from one to the other? And, tell us something about that.
Yeah, I think the root of it is your ability to reinvent yourself as the markets are changing. And that's why you have a diverse portfolio of my entrepreneurship journey. But how did entrepreneurship start? I think it was an experiment. And that's the type of personality I am, an observer who's curious, who loves to experiment. And the question was, how can you contribute back to your nation, right? I did not write my UPSC exam, so there was those traditional roles in the family that I didn't quite fit into. So the question came saying, okay, everybody is giving something back to society. Everybody is doing something to build the country. What can you do? And at that time, I remember thinking, what if I create jobs? Because jobs would give economic stability. It's a direct input for taxes, and we're a growing country. And that's how actually it started. And I was very young. I was in my late 20s when I started my first venture. So for me, even if I failed at that time, in my mind, I could always get back to a job. And that's what gave me the strength to kind of start my first venture. I think God has been kind. I've not looked back since. But it's fascinating to see how the environments have changed. When I started my first business, 2009 was the time frame. Doing business internationally, the kind of global access that we enjoy today, it wasn't there at that time. Yeah. So just to see how we've evolved and how innovative we've become as a country. So I think for me, impacting lives has always been at the center of it. And the journey has been interesting.
Is that why you chose White Cross? I mean, looking at the numbers, they're phenomenal. 325 clinics and 2 million lives.
I think health, I ventured into health because I felt that, and this was for corporate employees, mind you.
Okay.
Right. So I have always kind of been on the B2B side of things, and we were setting up clinics in corporates. Employees face burnout, exhaustion.
Correct.
And Bangalore, our traffic is terrible. So it was about protecting health of employees, and we had like a backward integration with hospitals and ambulances. I remember during that time we could save 7 lives of sudden heart attacks in offices.
Oh, wonderful.
And that gave me the enormity of the responsibility of the business that we had, because these were very young 35 to 45-year-olds who were experiencing heart attacks. And if you don't have a system in place, the devastating impact that it has on families. So I think that's been the center. Whatever you do it well, and it should it should impact lives. I mean, we should end up in whatever little way, leaving the world a better place than we inherited it. Yeah.
Very true. And I think from what you're telling me, also tells me a little bit about the fragility of everything around us,
Yes.
the systems, the processes, the human beings at the center of everything, and how we develop resilience.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how would you respond to that? And do you think, from all your experiences, the Indian part of it and the Indian ethos and this fragility in developing, are they connected in any way? Does the Indian system in any way help you with that?
I think that's such a beautiful question. I think being an Indian definitely helps, and I think the religion that I come from, which is being a Hindu, I think equally helps because I've had a very strong anchor of spirituality and religion also when I was growing up, and then when you realize that you're born again and there is a reincarnation cycle, you kind of, the checks and balances
Yes.
of your life, the purpose kind of automatically fits in. And when you start developing a long view, then, you don't get very temperamental at times. So I have often found that resilience comes because you can have a long-term view and you know that this too shall pass. So whether it's been recognition, applause, I've been on multiple stages both in India and globally. My special moment has been with Vital Voices, where we got an opportunity to interact with Hillary Clinton.
Oh, wonderful.
And understanding her journey, and we were 35 of us selected from
Yes.
across the world.
Yes.
And again flying down to US on their taxpayer money. So I hope Trump is not listening, but again doing that. So the peaks in my life have been peaks, moments that people will treasure for the rest of their lives. And somehow I have always been grounded. I've not let that affect me. Of course, you feel good about it. You get a sense of validation about it. But then because this too shall pass, you kind of, you let go. I think if you have to reinvent yourself, you have to have the ability of letting go. That's a very quintessential factor in building resilience. Both the peaks and valleys. I mean, both.
And that's like a Vedic truth, if I might say so, because, and why I'm saying that is because I think we need resilience more now in this age of AI and the way technology is like rushing by. I have stopped trying to connect with it. So now, because it's about AI, I will ask Niharika to ask you some questions
Sure.
because that's not me.
Yeah, sure.
As we have spoken about impact, you built one of the world's first AI platforms that measures culture and maps it financially. So, what made you believe that culture could be quantified?
Look, in the corporate world, what cannot be measured cannot be improved. If you want to manage, you need metrics, right? And culture is such a soft issue, and everybody that I've spoken about, be it my experience with the M&A world, where almost 80% of acquisitions are failing, and the number one reason is culture incompatibility. When you look at intergenerational conflicts in workplaces, so if you look at angel investing, the number one reason of startups have a 95% failure rate. Mortality rate is really high. And again, if you look at why startups fail, it's because of founder conflict, right? So at the heart of everything is human behavior. And human behavior is nothing but the value systems and the upbringing that you've had as a child and the culture that you've grown up with. So when culture is at the center stage of things, if you're not measuring it, then we're not really doing anything about it. It just becomes lip service at the end of the day. So then I kind of took a step back, spent a lot of time, spoke to professors, private equity firms, investment bankers, CEOs to say, look, I know culture is important, but what can we do to help you? And the response was, get something tangible. And that's what gave rise to Culturelytics, and what we measure comes across as a culture coherence quotient, which is a CCQ. And I'm very happy to say that we're not only the world's first, but we're out of India, we're women-led, and it's deep tech. So I'm very, very proud about what my team has been able to achieve, and very excited and thankful of how the industry has adopted it. I mean, we've had some fantastic work that we've done with household names across the world on Culturelytics. So I think measurability and managing something and culture is going to become even more important in the days to come.
So, keeping all this in mind, you have worked with the intersection of AI, ethics, and power. What worries you most about how technology is going to be deployed these days?
Well, I am in the process of writing a book. Um, Responsible AI or ethical AI is something that we need more conversations and discussions on. There's a lot of bias in algorithms. I don't think India is contributing as much as it should in data sets. As you know, Ayurveda is a very traditional Indian on health, right? And he was saying it's so unfortunate that today when you put on Google, what should I use for hair fall, rosemary comes up. And rosemary is not even Indian, so as to say, right? So we have in the last decade created a market for goods and products that are not Indian but Western, but the largest market being India, and we're consuming it. And it's not because rosemary doesn't work, it's because we don't know much about castor oil, right? So if you look at the dependency of us and the generations after us on technology to take us from one place to another, it may be Google Maps, relationship advice, dress advice, everything. We're now a technology first generation. If I want to clarify something, I don't talk to you. I go to my phone and search for it. So my first response, if I'm anything curious, has become technology. And if I'm blindly believing what it's telling me, then I'm at a huge risk, because what it could give me may be biased, and most of the times it's biased. So I think we need some very serious conversations about ethical AI and responsible AI, especially from India, because we are the largest contributors and consumers of AI, and yet we don't have a voice on the table. So that worries me sometimes.
So, the dependency on AI is something which is very being spoken about also, because Gen Z are being moved, this younger generation, I would have to say my generation, is so dependent on AI to do their daily tasks. And it's very important to highlight where we need to use AI and where we don't need to use it. So, of that,
Yeah, I think your generation also has virtual girlfriends and boyfriends, because I was interacting with a very young woman, and she was in depression for the last 3 or 4 months, and her parents was very worried because she had a virtual boyfriend, in the area of augmented reality and everything, and she had a legit relationship with a virtual boyfriend, and it got so toxic. And so for me, don't even get me started. I mean, how do I sit with a young woman and talk to her about a breakup that she's undergoing of a virtual boyfriend, but it's impacting
It's impacting
their
her,
life.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
impacting her. She's not gone out of her home. So, yes, I think it is scary.
It's a very thin line, between sanity and technology.
Yes, the words like offline is more used. At least when we were in the corporate world, the word online. When you said let's meet, it was assumed
Yeah,
we
yeah.
would meet. There was no word called offline.
Offline, yeah.
The word called offline
Very
is also a very
interesting, yeah.
no. We said just meet, and then we said no. This is an online
online.
meeting, and now we're like meetings are considered online, and now we have to say this is an offline
yeah,
meeting,
yeah.
and that's the transition that we've made in one generation. So yes, lots to reflect.
So, Yeshasvini, then you have given us a snapshot of your entrepreneurial journey, and you spoke about Culturelytics also, answered so many of Niharika's questions as a Gen Z, or I hope I'm right with that, the alphabet. But that led you to GPTW, a
Yes.
great place to work, India, and as a CEO. It was such a strategic move, or was it a calculated move, or
Yeah.
can you tell us something about that part of your life?
Yeah. Thank you for the question. So yes, I think here, Culturelytics started with funding from family and friends. We just closed that round, and we were really looking at scale. And Great Place to Work kind of gave us a very, very, I think, strategic opportunity to work with a lot of organizations. So when I joined them, we were about 600 odd organizations that we were certifying. So Great Place to Work is a certification body. It certifies organization as a great place to work. It's a US based organization, is around 90 countries across the world, etc. And I was onboarded as a co-owner and as a CEO. So we acquired a minority stake in the India franchise, which is Great Place to Work. And by that virtue, I joined them as their CEO. And I think it was a fascinating journey because in that we kind of scaled from a base of about 600 odd clients to about 2,000 odd organizations, covering about 5 million, which is about 50 lakh employee voices. So I think that journey validated our hypothesis that culture is at the center stage, and a lot of forward-looking organizations, a lot of CEOs who want to lead with purpose, keep values and culture as a cornerstone in growing their organizations. And so it was great. I think we did some fantastic innovative work in recognizing the top 100 companies of India, and just to be a part of that legacy, and take the analytics and some of that outcomes of human behavior back to improving Culturelytics algorithms. I think that was good, and I'm so happy that I'm continuing the Great Place to Work journey with other geographies. I think Michael, who is the CEO for Great Place to Work, is a wonderful human being. And Michael and I have a lot of wonderful conversations even today. There are quite a few CEOs and co-owners of Great Place to Work across the world. So we've now kind of become a community of like-minded professionals across different countries.
I'm sure.
Yeah, so it's been a fascinating journey. We've of course we got a good exit from Great Place to Work India franchise. So now it's all focused on growing Culturelytics.
Culturelytics.
Yes.
And I think it's that passion which has been recognized, right?
Yes.
So I don't think you have ever worked for awards, unlike some people who do it. So that passion has come through and through in all your endeavors and your initiatives. So you had FICCI,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then you had Times Power Women. And of course, we have already spoken about the Fortune Most Powerful Women Partnership, that for which you went to USA. So, and then the latest one of the Forbes top 200
Yes.
companies.
Yes.
I mean, see, awards are good, and you have worked so much for them. It's a kind of a validation of the work you're doing most of the time, and it encourages you to do more, maybe in the same direction. But does it change you?
Do awards
Awards
change it?
change you?
Uh,
You know,
that's
if
a good
the
question.
way others are look
Yeah,
at you, or
I think so. I don't think it's changed me because, and I got this advice very early on, and I've been so blessed to have mentors very early on in my life, and they've always said, build something of value, don't chase valuations. And I think that advice has stayed with me because if you build something of value, people will automatically come. And there is another saying, same thing but slightly different, which is don't chase butterflies, grow a garden.
no,
Right?
very
So I
beautiful.
think that's been my philosophy. So I don't think awards has changed me because, of course, it's reassuring that you're on a journey, and it does give you the reassurance. But I think the way people react to you, that changes. So so then, you kind of, I think the world is made of all kinds of people, and having recognition both in India and internationally exposes you to different conversations. So yes.
Is that what took you to education also? And we also have rural entrepreneurship initiatives that you have taken up.
Yeah.
I mean, this entire thought process of keeping the human at the center of everything, and compassion,
Yes.
empathy,
Yes.
even in a world of business.
Yes.
So was that the one which led you to get into this initiative where you offered almost 12,000 jobs to
Yes.
disadvantaged women? And can you tell us about how you're engaging with army veterans?
Yes. So this is a not-for-profit organization called I Create, and I Create has a history of more than 25 years now, and it only engages in its current form with army veterans. So for people who don't know, in India, almost 60,000 army personnel retire every year. 60,000, right? And after a dedicated time of service, they want to go back to their hometowns. And when they want to go back to their hometowns, they don't get the kind of job opportunities that they would find. And then again, they have to come back to the city. So here you have an army veteran who's dedicated his life, not finding a job, and even after leaving army, is still not staying with his family because he's in a city. So what we thought we would do is to kind of help them build skills as entrepreneurs, because again, the journey of entrepreneurship requires a lot of discipline.
True.
Tenacity, and these are characteristics that come naturally to any army veteran. So if you look up I Create as a website, you would see that we've trained more than 10,000 army veterans, and from them I think more than 1,600 odd have become entrepreneurs.
Wonderful.
And that's a big number. And when you become an entrepreneur in your own hometown, you're not only getting economic stability, but you're also creating jobs in that hometown. So it really has a multiplier effect.
Correct.
And that's what we've tried to do.
Reflecting back on the numbers and the impact that you have created, not just focusing on your business, but also giving back to the country, say, or to the ecosystems that you have built. What are the bottlenecks that you have come across while building this?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting one. Look, one is intention, and the second is execution. And for you to have an impact, it's all about execution, right? If you don't execute, it doesn't work. It's not started. So I think from an execution standpoint, there are quite a few reforms that India still needs, especially if you're going to talk about women entrepreneurs. You're going to talk about underserved communities which need a chance to come into the mainstream. Regulations, for example. So if you look at the MSME sector, which is the micro and small medium enterprises, they're 99% of India, and they are the largest contributor to our GDP, and they contribute more than 40% of our exports. So it's a very thriving community. And if you look at encouraging entrepreneurship, they will be coming into this MSME microcosm, right? So you have initiatives like the Startup India, Stand Up India, which actually show a lot of promise. There is ease of capital now. I think when I started in 2009, I don't think we had access to capital that was so easy that we have today. So, and Bangalore is the startup capital of India, right? So if you're sitting in this place, I think there's a lot more awareness to access of capital. But then what, right? How do you get the business plan together? How do you get your first client? How can you not be distracted by the funds that you raise? So there is still a need for a lot of mentorship. There is a need for a lot of our policies and regulation becoming simpler. And we need support systems, because as a society, I think we still look down on failure. Unlike some other economies, especially in the US, entrepreneurship is celebrated, right? So it's almost a given in the society, saying, oh, you tried at something and it failed, it's fine. I mean, failure is a part of the fabric of society. But in India, failure is seen more from an emotional lens, and then there's a lot of pressure. So I don't think the Indian society today, there is still a maturity to accept failure as just another step in your journey. There's a lot of, oh my God, you failed, and I told you so, and why don't you just go pick up a job in a stable organization, etc. Right? So if we really have to be a country that sparks innovation, a country that invests in deep tech, a country that prepares its talent. I mean, we're 1.4 billion people, right? We are the talent capital of the world, but we don't have an articulated talent policy for our country. So there are some fundamental gaps that are missing. We need to invest more in education. Our education paraphernalia and infrastructure is not updated. You have the health infrastructure, which is not very updated. So if you take a step back and look at, we're the youngest country in the world. We have the largest number of people who are also young. So aspirations are high. So how do we build an ecosystem that does justice to the talent and the ambitions of our fellow young Indians?
Very true.
I think we still have a long way to go.
And you know what, Yeshasvini, then, I mean, you're, if I have to be honest, you're glossing over the tough parts of your journey.
Okay.
You're not really coming out, we are talking mostly about the peaks.
Okay.
Right?
You're
and
making
I'm sure,
it into a therapy session.
No, I'm sure there were times when things hit you kind of hard, and you took some tough decisions also.
Yes.
In quite a few places. You must have taken some very tough decisions. Can you give us one instance, at least, out of those tough decisions, and you took a tough decision and you don't regret taking that decision, and you wouldn't want to change that for anything?
Yeah, I don't think I have regrets in life. I am not, like somebody said, self-pity is a luxury that we can't afford. So I neither dwell in self-pity, nor do I have regrets. I mean, life is life. You take decisions and you move on. Some decisions work out and you're a genius. And some decisions don't work out and everybody is very quick to say, I told you so.
Correct.
It's fine. It's life. So I have a balanced view on that. And if I have had peaks, I've had valleys as well. And some of them have been very dark as well. There have been days that I have cried myself to sleep. There have been days where I've gone on long walks. So walks help me. I think nature is such a healer.
Yeah.
Long walks by myself, trying to figure out and reflect. Some of the situations that I have navigated has taught me some very good life lessons, and some of them are pragmatic as well, because then you're trying to view world from a lens of innocence, and I think sometimes the world strips you of that innocence,
yes,
and
absolutely.
quite strongly,
Yes.
right? So what is it that I've learned, right? If I were to paraphrase it that way, just because you're a vegetarian, don't expect the lion to be a vegetarian. That's one thing. The second thing is, if you are seeking for help, please do, but understand whether somebody is helping you for their gain or somebody is helping you because you need help.
You need help, yeah.
I think this is a world where everybody wants something out of a situation. So you shouldn't unwillingly or unknowingly get into something which is beyond that. In the world of business, in the world of deals, M&A, I have learned that you can't get a good deal with a bad person. I think Warren Buffett says that really well. He said, walk away. I think you should also know when to walk away. Because if you're fundamentally dealing with a bad person, and who is a bad person? Somebody who's manipulative, somebody who's insecure, somebody, who's probably even a narcissist. You encounter all kinds of people.
True.
And somehow in our journey of making it a win-win for everybody, we end up giving people second chances. And you just can't get a good deal with a bad guy.
Talking about India, we are talking about culture. Also, identity is coming in somewhere in a lot of different perspectives. But as a nation, we are yet to come out of the grips of the colonial hangover. And being guided by that, I see a lot of times this kind of a way in which we deal with power and hierarchy. So if you look at this and come out of that, looking at only the top management, middle management, why does it, and we spoke about failures also, so something on similar lines, we only look at the middle management and the top management. We forget that there are, some human beings below that also. Yeah. I mean, I remember Infosys when they gave out shares to even the security guards. So why does India forget that there are other people out there even below the line?
Well, I think India is a mixed bag. We are feudal in a lot of places. I don't think we can run away from that. But I think from a culture standpoint, at least what worries me a little bit is that a Victorian way of life was celebrated for a very long period of time. Coats, even the way we dress, English, for example, even today. If you speak in English, you're somehow more superior than the person who may have more, maybe more knowledge, more acumen about life, but doesn't know English. Feels lesser than you. So, of course, there is a hangover. But what worries me is, I think we've transitioned from a very Victorian era to a very pro-American culture. So it's, with 7 decades and more of us winning our own freedom, I don't think we've come together to define India as a collective identity.
True.
We have been very influenced by the Victorian era, and now we're getting very influenced by the US. And now we have the K-pop culture coming in from Korea. So somehow I know India is a melting pot, but I would also appreciate if we come out stronger as Indians. What works for us? What works for us is our ability to be inclusive. I don't think anybody needs to teach Indians to be inclusive. It comes with our upbringing as a fabric of our society. Resilience, tenacity, the ability to get things done. I mean, we are a country where resources are scarce, and yet we're able to build infrastructure and companies that compete globally. So we do have a very innate knack of innovation. I don't want to call it jugaad because I know jugaad gets celebrated, but I think jugaad is also very misunderstood to say, let me solve this problem for now. It doesn't take care of the future, but I think we are. So somewhere we need to be less critical of ourselves, less judgmental. We definitely learn from the world, but we also need to start reassuring our next generation of the value system. Somewhere the communication between families or inside families between generations, that is breaking up. So the joint family system has almost evaporated. Even within families, you have different bedrooms, different phones, different content. There used to be a time where one TV and the whole community used to come together, right?
Yeah.
Or there used to be a one house in a locality which had that one telephone, and all of us used to come. And somehow the paradox is that we are so hyper connected and yet so lonely. So and this is not India. India, we want to have fun. We want to have. I mean, everything is an event to celebrate, whether it's cricket or Holi or...
We are loud.
We're loud. I really want that back. I mean, the pride that we're Indians and so what? And not trying to hold yourself to some lens and justify your existence. I don't think that's India.
True.
We have spoken quite a lot about India. You have spoken quite a lot about India, culture, identity, how all of this Sindhudi out because they are heavy on it. What is one thing if India were to export basis on culture, or let's say a cultural idea that India should export? What do you think it should be?
I don't think one thing. I think we should just export everything. If you look at Indian weddings, for example, Indian weddings are trending across the globe. Everything about India is so rich. That's what I keep saying. Look at our food. Look at our clothing, our music. I mean, everything has a perennial outcome to it. So I'm sorry to disappoint you. I don't think there is any one thing about India. I think India itself should celebrate itself a little bit more. If you really want me to pin it down to one thing, maybe food. But then again, food is so diverse, right? Whether you like a aloo paratha or a fish curry or gajar halwa. Thousands. Like Vivekananda said, every 100 kilometers is a different nation, and that's India. But yeah, I'm a foodie, so maybe food. Yeah.
And it lends itself to the idea of people sitting around a table and having conversations and just talking about the day and catching up on good food and right. So very interesting. Those are very important and interesting insights, because you're a person who has traveled the world and seen them, seeing the changes and the transitions that the country is going through. It's very important to learn so many different things from what you're telling us. And I think...
And these are some things that I'm very particular about. Like, for example, I'm a fellow in the Institute of Directors, right? So that's a body that really is like the conscience keeper for boards in organizations. And as our economy is evolving, we're talking about culture being an integral part of the board agenda. If you look at TIE, where I'm a charter member, here that's the Indus Entrepreneurs here in Bangalore. Again, we're talking about how we can mentor startups and create an ecosystem where we're culturally rich. I mean, talk about spiritual tourism, talk about clothing, anything. I think India is such a rich nation for ideas and for enterprise. I feel we've just begun, and I sometimes feel I wish I was about a decade younger than I am, so that I still get that road and runway to do more.
Very
I mean,
true.
I feel we're just about beginning that journey of
Very
exploring
true.
and
Very
identifying ourselves.
I mean, from the entire journey that you have had as a serial entrepreneur, for example, and you have tasted success in each one of them.
Yeah.
Lot of great hard work.
Yeah.
You have made your hands dirty and gone through a lot. I'm 100% sure about that. Not taking that away from you. But if a youngster would like to ask you, because kids will see that you are so successful, you're on the Forbes list and things like that. So if you were to tell them, is it the success? Because we are always talking about success being the goal, and there is this fundamental philosophy that it's not success, it's the journey.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, so is it achieving success which is more exciting for you, or is it about starting something actually from the scratch, which excites you more?
Yeah, I think it goes back to the way you define success. And for me, success has been always having the ability to exercise options, right? So when they say you're financially successful, and let's say I want to go and eat somewhere. Now I can choose to eat in a 5-star hotel, I can choose to have street food, or I can go to a langar and have prasad, right? I have that choice because I'm financially successful, right? So at the end of the day, success is nothing but the ability for you to exercise choice. Now, if I was poor and I did not have that financial ability, I cannot go into a 5-star hotel and enjoy that ambience, right? So for me, it's fundamentally giving myself the freedom to choose and exercise. And that's what has kind of this thing. But what do I crave for? I think is
What
sleep.
makes you tick?
I think sleep.
Oh, God.
I don't know what makes me what makes me tick is to create something.
Exactly.
I love creation.
Citibank, tagline, the city never sleeps.
Yeah.
It would always worry me, and even Mumbai is called as a city that never sleeps. So,
there's issues of burnout and all of that. I don't even know. Work-life balance as a term is spoken about a lot, but for me, it's just life. I cannot operate in a 8-hour-a-day work, and then for me, work and life are not exclusive. It's life. It's the way you want to lead with it, right?
Are you saying that work should become life and life should become work? That means you don't draw boundaries around that. They seamlessly merge into each other.
It's life. It's life.
Right.
If you're passionate about something, pick up something that doesn't look like a job. Now, all of us may not get those opportunities early on. I have had to work and hold positions where I've not really enjoyed it, but I had to do that because I needed financial stability. Now, all of us in our lives will encounter jobs or roles that we don't enjoy, but we need that at that particular point in time in our life. If you've taken that decision, then enjoy that decision. You have taken that decision, right? So if you've taken the decision, make it right.
Now, today, since I'm here representing the youth and people of my age, what do you have to say for the young founders or the aspiring young founders and what they need to learn about hustle and success?
Well, Gen Z is a term that invokes a lot of different kinds of emotions with me. I think fundamentally, I find your generation very entrepreneurial. So we've had generations before you for whom it was a first home, a first car, a first TV. So I think as a society, what we're experiencing in the urban centers today is an evolution post all of this, where there is a financial stability that's already guaranteed, probably from houses that already have 2 cars, more than one TV, and maybe more than one home, right? So this generation automatically then wants to aspire to do something new, to do something bigger. And it's a digitally native generation, meaning you were born with phones. I think when I was in school, the word internet was not a part of our dictionary. We had no word called internet. Right? And today, to founding an AI company, like just look at the journey that I've had, right? So I think with Gen Z, they were born with technology. They were born into technology. So there is a lot of intuitiveness around technology that comes naturally to you. And because technology connects the world, the kind of knowledge and the kind of information access that a Gen Z has today is probably the first in the world. I mean, there's no generations before them that have had this kind of access to information, and that automatically feeds into confidence. So this is a generation that's entrepreneurial, that's confident, and I think loves to hustle. If you ask what is my message, I don't think I have any message other than to say breathe a little bit. Everything need not come to you today. And we keep saying YOLO, life is short. I think life is long. I don't think life is short, life is long. And you'll meet so many different people. You yourself will change as you experience new stuff. So I think I would say start having patience with yourself. Have ambitions. Ambition is a good thing, but know that it's not a video game. I mean, life will throw its curveballs at you. How much ever you plan, how much ever you design everything, life has its own way to teach you.
Moving towards women of youth or my generation, how do you think we should approach ambition, as you had mentioned?
Yeah, I think if you're going to use the word young woman, we're all young. I don't think women ever age. we are young, period. So if you're going to talk about ambition and women, I think the cultural context becomes very important. For Asia, not necessarily India, but if you look at Southeast Asia, the roles are pretty traditional, and it has both sides of the coin. So, for example, even today in our society, if a woman decides not to work and to be at home, the society is very accepting of that. In fact, you'll have a few family members who are happy that you're finally home, and a home is going to become a home. If you have a man today to say, listen, I'm not very ambitious, I'm tired of it, and I want to sit at home. That luxury is not afforded to a man, even today in our society. So, if you're born a man, you are supposed to be successful, you're supposed to be rich, you're almost, there's no choice, but you have to be a hero, a superhero, right? And that has its pressure. So I'd like to just get it out there that I know we talk about women, but men also equally have it bad, right? Their way of sharing may be different than the way we share, but I don't think it's a very gender thing. Now, for women, a couple of things is and I've spoken about this multiple times, is start getting comfortable with managing your finance. If you are serious about dealing with the world, and if you're serious about terms like independent, strong women, it comes with a know-how of finance. And just to give you an example, I was in an event a few weeks ago, and the moment we spoke about taxes, we had the budget just coming in. We spoke about taxes and taxation and filing, and we had this set of, well-to-do women, and they're like, "Oh, taxes हमें समझ में नहीं आता है. Taxes मुझे मत सिखाओ. मुझे ये सब no." If you can't take the heat, don't get into the kitchen. That's what they say, right? So I think for women, ambition, nobody is asking you not to be ambitious. But having an ambition and working towards it, you can't take shortcuts. So you can't be lazy in life. If you want to be strong, having your own worldviews, traveling the world, living life on your terms, you need financial stability. And for you to have financial stability, you need to start getting comfortable with managing your finance. And I think it starts from there.
If I have to say this as a blanket, that's the philosophy followed in India, basically, right? If you look at history also, historically speaking, we have been too humble. We have always been humble, welcoming. And, so we invite people in, and many a times ending up as the camel in the shake story also.
Yes.
So is that what transitioned you to this new venture, and you call it Culture Calls?
No, actually, Culture Calls happened because of many things. I think if you look at my journey, I've had to encounter 3 biases: age, gender, and country. So my first boardroom presentation was in my late 20s at Nariman Point in Bombay with a bank. And I remember I was the only woman in the boardroom. And that came with its challenges and comments. It was age as well, right? So it's not only because I was a woman, but I was also in my 20s in the boardroom. So, getting patronized, etc., that comes with it. So I have faced age, I have faced gender, and countries. When you travel so much, there are stereotypes about India. To say, luckily today they don't ask whether do you go to school on an elephant. But, we've been asked those questions, right? And my answer has been to say no, but my mother has gone to a school on a bullock cart. And that kind of opens up conversation. So when you travel abroad, there are stereotypes about your country that gets spoken about that sometimes hurts you as well, because not all conversations and perceptions are positive. So Culture Calls for me is like a calling, maybe something that was meant to happen, and it's happening now, and largely thanks to Venkat as well from the KVN group, that we both were able to see a vision. So this is actually a kind of a joint partnership of KVN and I to get Indian stories to the globe. How can we be unapologetically Indian? How can we be ourselves? How can we talk about our food? Like if you talk today, braiding your hair with oil and going out is fashionable. And I remember while growing up, it was almost like
you use the word trolled today, you would get trolled. Tel laga ke aayi hai.
Yeah, tel laga ke aayi hai, and all of that stuff, right? And also right now the generation is at that point where they want answers. They're seeking stuff. Like how history is being taught in schools has changed. What do we stand as a civilization? So there is a lot of self-reflection that the youth of India today are undergoing, and there has to be a platform that gives them that avenue. There's a lot of restlessness in their voice being shared. So we have something called the culture journalist, which is hashtag CJ, where we're encouraging anybody, whether you're in a small town or a village or in a city, if you have interesting culture stories, to share it with us. And we're going to be talking about our democracy, our tolerance to debates, our respect for having opposing thoughts, and yet as human beings getting along. I think India has a lot to celebrate, and I think it's our time to share our stories. And that's
Basically,
why
get the
culture
pride
calls.
back in,
Yeah, I
in what
think.
you are.
Yeah, I think establishing a strong sense of identity.
Yeah.
If you have a strong sense of self, then there is a lot of confidence and pride that automatically comes as an outcome. I don't want it to be superficial, chest thumping kind of a thing. Indians are a very, very rare species. We're very warm at heart, we're emotional, we welcome guests at home. We love to share our food. If there is a dance happening somewhere, I think we also want to go and dance with them and enjoy. So we're such a nice, inclusive group of people. We love to gossip, we love to chatter, so really bringing the real India out there into the globe. And given my experiences, I thought it's the right time.
Yes, very true.
So this platform that you are building, which is Culture Calls, India to the world, who do you hope feels seen through Culture Calls?
I think everybody who relates to the idea of India, you need not have to be in India. Like if you're in US, UK, anything, if you love sharing food with family, you're an Indian. If you're curious about politics, you're an Indian. If you love to have an opinion about anything in life, you're an Indian, right? So Indian is so global. So anybody who loves community, sharing stories, I think should feel heard through culture calls.
You also mentioned KVN Productions. Can you tell us about something about this partnership? And I mean, this is such a unique combination,
Oh, yes.
How
Yes.
did you cross paths on especially on culture?
Yeah, so that's very interesting. I think Venkat and I know each other. It's almost nearing a decade. And I love his outlook to life. He's an extreme clarity of thought, ambitious, again a very authentic and a nice human being. I like the way, what makes a good leader. That question is asked a lot of times, and I say if you want to identify a good leader, look at the way they take decisions. And it'll tell you a lot about them. And I love the way he approaches his business. So, the KVN group has its share of real estate and real estate, as in the media bit, and not compromising on quality, being original, being authentic. And this is the ethos of the KVN group. I work with that well because I am that type of a person. And I'm hoping the partnership will succeed. It is a partnership. At the end of the day, hopefully we'll receive a lot of love.
What a lovely conversation we have had today. From your childhood to your upbringing, to your adventures, to ventures and challenges, ups, downs, all of it. Now we have one final segment to cover, which is the rapid fire straight from your heart.
Is it like the Karan Johar one? Do I get like a hamper at the end of it?
You get a chai. You get a cup of chai at the end of it.
Chai and books are my favorite.
Yes.
Okay, let's get started.
One value you will not trade ever.
Integrity.
Legacy to you mean?
Responsibility.
Are you more instinct led or thought led?
Instinct.
What describes you better? Calm intensity or playful focus?
That's a tough one. I think I am very intense as a person, but I like to enjoy my journey. I'm not very serious about it. So, playful intensity. Like they say, it takes a lot of effort to be effortless.
Effortless, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's my philosophy.
When you're passionate about something, do you go all in or take measured steps?
No, I'm a 0 or 100. Go all in and do everything possible to make it work.
A mistake that taught you the most?
A mistake that taught me the most is never try to cut a good deal with flawed human beings.
What does India get right instinctively?
Emotions.
One word your younger self needed to hear.
That it's going to turn out okay. You don't have to be perfect and anxious at all times. Life will play out.
One school memory that still makes you smile.
The chewing gum I put on my class teacher's chair. And then the punishment we got after that.
Okay. So others better listen about the second half of the answer and not the first half.
A subject you loved.
Subject I loved. That's tough, but maybe science in school and psychology when I grew up.
If your younger self met you today, what would surprise her?
What would surprise her would be the fact that I've given up sports and this thing because I was so athletic and I wish I can get back to that. What would happily surprise her is the fact that I've lived my life on my own terms.
Which sport did you play?
So I was a zonal athlete in school for shot put and 800 meters. Yes.
A place in Delhi that feels like home to you.
My school.
Favorite cuisine?
Indian. And I know there's nothing called an Indian cuisine because we're so diverse, but a favorite dish would be idli. I can have idlis every day. Hot idlis with pouring ghee and pudi on top.
Heaven.
Heaven. Yeah, I can live with that every day. Idli is my favorite. Yes.
Favorite singer, song track, and your favorite type of music?
Oh gosh. Favorite soundtrack would be My Way by Frank Sinatra. And I think I identify with that a lot. Sia's Unstoppable. And that's kind of my motivation song when I'm going a little down. The genre of music that I love would be probably soft rock. And of course, Hindustani classical. Yes.
Having your favorite meal versus playing your favorite mobile game. And which game is it that you enjoy?
Oh, my phone is full of games. In fact, lesser known fact is that I game as... So gaming helps me focus and deal with stress. Very often times, and this not a lot of people know, very often times before a board meeting or something, I'll be playing games. And then my team will walk up to me and say, Yash, are you serious? You're playing games? So for me, video games, it just helps me focus, right? But between food and video games, food. I'm a foodie, big foodie.
And if you had to give a shout out to one dish and also one game on your phone.
So idli, like I said. Yes, idli, like I said. And the game that I love, that's a tough one. I like these... So there is a contrast. So I have this farming village kind of thing where you build farms and you build community. I spend a lot of time in that. I have a lot of shooting games as well, like wars, and then there's an enemy attack and you need to kill them. So I think it really depends on what I'm feeling that day, but yeah, I like these two.
One thing that instantly makes you smile, let's say materialistic.
Materialistic. I don't think there's any materialistic thing that makes me smile. But what brings a smile very naturally to me are raindrops. I love rain.
Fun fact, my name means dewdrops. The drops. Yeah.
Oh, how lovely. How lovely.
No wonder you connect.
One small indulgence you never say no to.
Enjoying masala puri or chaat. In India, it's called chaat. Street food.
A simple pleasure you have rediscovered as an adult.
Music, singing.
What's something you enjoy doing just for yourself with no outcome attached?
Binge watching. I love the whodunit, mystery, binge watching stuff. And the other extreme is like I'm a hopeless romantic. So I don't know whether knights in shining armor are a reality or an illusion, but that hopeless romanticism, I get hooked on to. But yeah, binge watching.
If your work life had a movie name, what would it be?
Let me dabble between Dhurandhar. Dhurandhar definitely, and Manikarnika.
If you weren't an entrepreneur, what do you think you'd be doing professionally?
Professionally, if I wasn't an entrepreneur, I don't know. I think I would have always been an entrepreneur. But a very close second would have been an IAS officer. I think I take to administration, decisions and development, policy making very naturally. So I think I would have probably been serving as an IAS officer.
If you weren't a CEO for a day, what harmless mischief would you cause?
Oh, I wasn't a CEO, and I did this in one of the companies that I was working with. One of my co-workers had left her laptop open without forgetting to lock it. And I had sent her resignation letter to her manager without her knowing. So she came back, and then she had these sudden calls, and the manager saying, "Come to meet me," and she's wondering what's happening. So I'm quite a prankster. I've always been a prankster in school, college, kind of a little bit of a rebel as how, but yeah, I that was a prank that I played at work. And I wasn't the CEO at that time. I don't think I'd do that today, but yeah.
So after that very long and intense conversation we had, I think Niharika got it right at the end with her straight from the heart and catching you off, I think, and with that surprise element.
Yeah.
And that was a fun-filled segment for all of us. And it also tells us about a different Yeshasvini. And we know where to tap if we need something from you now. And with that, I think we come to the end of this very beautiful and I wouldn't want to use the word interesting again and again, but a beautiful conversation. And thank you so much for that, Yeshasvini. And we wish you all the success and the brightest of the things in your life. And good luck and God bless.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
As this conversation draws to a close, what stays with us is not only the scale of Yeshasvini Ramaswamy's journey, but the quiet spirit that has shaped it. Hers has never been a straight road. It has been a path marked by struggle and grace, by moments of uncertainty and moments of deep faith, by simple beginnings that slowly unfolded with extraordinary possibilities. Through every phase, one anchor has remained constant, a spiritual stillness that keeps her grounded in humility, gratitude, and service.
What makes her story resonate is not achievement alone, but humanity. Even while carrying the depth of many oceans within her experiences, she holds on to a childlike innocence of hope, an enduring belief in goodness, in people, and in the promise of tomorrow. It is this rare balance of strength and softness, of global vision and simple heart, that makes her journey feel both remarkable and deeply relatable. Perhaps that is also why she is the natural voice behind Culture Calls. Because this platform is not about position or perfection. It is about listening with sincerity, honoring lived journeys, and bringing forward stories that shape who we are.
Yeshasvini hosts these conversations not merely as a leader, but as a seeker, guided by curiosity, humility, and an abiding faith in the human spirit. This is Culture Calls, a space where journeys are honored, courage is remembered, and we listen closely to voices that matter.